Hi y'all, just prefacing this video by saying that if there is some weird background noise, that is my fan. It is extremely hot in my room and I could not record this video without having the fan on, so I'm sorry if that is bothersome. Hopefully you won't be able to hear it much. But let's get into the video. My dream Ninjago episode has become a reality, and that episode is the 8th episode of Dragons Rising Season 4, Dying to Live. This episode overall is just so freaking good, and I consider it to be one of the best of the entire series. But the main reason why it is specifically my dream episode is because the two main characters of this episode are Cole and Lloyd, my two favorite ninjas. I love these two so much, and having an episode focusing on the two of them leading their respective plots was just such a treat for me. But let's talk about this episode in a bit more detail. First of all, let's talk about the opening scene. We get to hear Beatrix's recount of what happened to her after the ninja defeated her in Season 1. Aside from the expositional dialogue, I think this scene is great. I'm not going to harp on it too much in this video, but the expositional dialogue is still a problem in this season, but not too horrible in this scene, besides one line that I'll get to. The art style changes after Beatrix talks about what we've already seen and transitions into her time in the Land of Monsters. I love that visual difference and it adds a lot of intensity to the scene. I wasn't the biggest fan of Beatrix coming back at first, but it honestly isn't bad. They write her well and she goes mad with power, which is always fun to watch in a villain character. I also like the idea of her becoming a literal monster herself. It's so cool. So the line that I have an issue with is when we cut back to the regular animation and we see that Dr. Leroux found Beatrix. She says,
"You're awake. My experimental medical treatments must be working."
And I'm sorry, but it sounds so unnatural. If Beatrix just woke up, girl should have been like, oh my gosh, it's working! Like, that's her reaction. Beatrix then could have asked what she did, and then Leroux could have explained. They could still give that needed exposition, just in a less unnatural way. Anyway, the scene overall really sets an intimidating tone to Beatrix as a villain, and reintroduces her character extremely well, giving us new, interesting lore and showing us how angry Beatrix is and how determined she is to gain control over Imperium again. After this, we cut to Cole in an Imperium prison cell. He sees that the last person here drew a smiley face on the wall that he then proceeds to call Mr. Smiley, and I really like the comic relief they give Cole in this episode. It is quite a heavy episode, and Cole is able to carry the comic relief role well, making the whole episode just work. Cole overhears Dr. Leroux talking to Beatrix about the Weapon of Desolation, and sees that some of the Loyalists have returned with one half of the weapon. He also hears that they trapped some of the ninja, and Cole knows that he needs to get the weapon out of the Loyalist clutches. The next scene shows that the Whispering Wood is dying, and so is the Life Dragon. She talks to Zane, Aaron, and Euphrasia about the trial of the Green Ninja, explaining that the trial will be harder for Lloyd as he has started it when he is grown up. He has seen too much about the world to be able to overcome everything the trial will throw at him. I really like this aspect of the trial, that the reason the Green Ninjas go through this trial at a young age is because they haven't been as exposed to so many of the negative things that come with growing up. That's when some elemental monsters show up to fight the ninja, and then we cut to the other main plot of this episode, Lloyd facing the last part of the trial of the Green Ninja. We catch up with Lloyd as he is meditating on his past, like his younger self instructed him to do before he faced his greatest enemy. He's trying to figure out who his greatest enemy is, running through names, including a mention of Garmadon, which definitely made me excited to hear that name. He's trying to meditate but cannot stop worrying about the trial. The scene is very relatable, seeing Lloyd worry like this. Anyway, Lloyd realizes that worrying isn't going to help, and that he just has to focus on passing the trial. He steps through the portal to face his greatest enemy and is transported to a vision of the monastery. I love how the monastery shifts through day and night. It brings a really cool atmosphere to the scene. As this is happening, Lloyd's greatest enemy appears, and it's himself. Enemy Lloyd is so well written. He has a lot of sass and deep-rooted anger and shame, and he wants this in order to cut Lloyd down. I like his sassy, "Hello, Lloyd."
Hello, Lloyd.
Another cut back to Cole with some goofy antics to lighten the episode, and yeah, it works, especially for me, as Cole is my favorite ninja. He uses his elemental power, even though it's wonky, to try and escape, and this alerts the Imperium guards. The episode then transitions back to Lloyd facing himself. Now, one thing that throws me off about this episode is the transitions. I feel like they're always a bit too, quick, especially, throughout the whole season. But anyway, Lloyd says to his counterpart that he isn't his own worst enemy. but the way he says it, it sounds like deep down he knows his counterpart is right, but he is denying it. He kind of like smiles through it like it could almost be a joke. Then Enemy Lloyd says that of course he would want to take the easy way out, and that's when Lloyd realizes he can't deny this. His expression stiffens. Enemy Lloyd starts to tear down Lloyd, saying that he's the real problem, he isn't a leader, and that he always lets the team down. Lloyd still has doubt that what Enemy Lloyd says is true. He insists that the ninja always have each other's backs, and that they're a team. I really love Sam Vincent's voice acting in this episode. There's so much emotion behind Lloyd's words, and the way he differs Enemy Lloyd's voice from Lloyd's voice is so good. Enemy Lloyd tells Lloyd that he will never be able to lead the team like Master Wu did, or even like Cole did. I really love that line. They finally confirmed that Cole used to be the leader of the ninja, and it makes a lot of sense. Cole has that leadership quality to him. We've seen from how he has been able to lead groups like the Finders and the Upley. He also really has that sense of being the older brother of the group, the one that keeps everyone in check. I love the staging of the scene, the cinematography, the different shots, the way Enemy Lloyd circles Lloyd as he points out his flaws. It's really such a visually interesting and well thought out episode. The scene also reveals that Lloyd blames himself for Master Wu not returning to the ninja, even though they've learned that he's not dead, which is honestly heartbreaking. There's a moment in the scene where Enemy Lloyd hits Lloyd in the nose, which is kinda hilarious to me because obviously they're Lego, they don't have noses. After this, Lloyd launches into Rising Dragon, and Enemy Lloyd mirrors this move. And man, this moment is so freaking cool. I absolutely love Enemy Lloyd's totally nonchalant, unimpressed look before he launches into Rising Dragon as well. We then get this really cool imagery of shattered glass showing reflections of Enemy Lloyd. I love how Enemy Lloyd is inside the glass and he leans forward, banging on the glass. It's so cool. As Enemy Lloyd continues to list off all of Lloyd's mistakes and greatest shames, Lloyd says "I know" over and over to him, admitting to himself that he knows all of this, admitting that it pains him. The repetition of these two words as the scene continues, the desperation in Lloyd's voice is just so emotional and it all plays out so well. Enemy Lloyd dragging his sword across the ground has got to be one of the best scenes in Ninjago. It just sets such an intimidating presence. So then, we cut back to Cole, and he manages to trick the Imperium guards and escape. He comes across the Weapon of Desolation, but the Loyalists catch up to him. They start to fight, and once again, this fight scene rocks. Pun intended. Every fight scene in Dragon's Rising is just elite. Cole manages to get his hands on the weapon, and the weapon actually manages to enhance his powers instead of destroying things, helping him to have an epic golem form. Iconic. And if I said that word wrong, I'm sorry. Cut back to the Lloyd versus Enemy Lloyd fight, and the main thing I want to point out in this portion of the fight is that we get two of the best lines of the show here, in my opinion. First off, Lloyd says,
"You can't beat me, because there's nothing you can say that I haven't already said to myself."
Oh my gosh, one of the best lines ever, methinks. Seriously, so damn relatable, and fits perfectly with what we know about Lloyd and the way he is overly critical of himself. I think it's just an absolutely amazing line that I love so freaking much. And then we get Enemy Lloyd describing Lloyd as
a boy pretending to be a man.
A+ line. Perfect. Amazing. Every time I watch this scene, I want to scream over how good that line is. It's just so perfect. I'm so glad these lines exist because they just show how much they truly do understand Lloyd's character, and man, I love it. I love that we have this scene. The glass fragments floating around Lloyd are also so cool, and the whole scene is a visual masterpiece. Enemy Lloyd manages to corner Lloyd by the edge of a cliff, and it seems he is about to win the fight. But then we cut back to Zane, Euphrasia, and Aaron with the Life Dragon in the Whispering Wood, and wow, the animation is so beautiful. It's so breathtaking every time they cut to the Life Dragon, like peak animation. The Whispering Wood is continuing to wither away as Lloyd is still in the trial, and not doing very well as we've seen. My favorite part about this scene is Aaron getting knocked out before he can finish saying "Ninja never quit." It just makes me laugh every time.
Ninja never quit!
We then see that Beatrix has found Cole fighting the Loyalists, and then they start to fight, which is pretty epic. I also forgot that Cole had never met Beatrix before, so them actually acknowledging that is really funny. Beatrix is eventually able to get the Weapon of Desolation back, so Cole's golem form dissipates and he's once again captured by the Imperium Loyalists. Cole is knocked out by Beatrix, and when he wakes up, he sees that one of the Loyalists is bringing the second half of the Weapon of Desolation to Beatrix. I love how Cole says crud when he realizes the silly hat guy actually managed to get the super dangerous weapon. When we finally cut back to Lloyd, we see that enemy Lloyd actually has not ended the fight because he just wants to gloat more. He just wants to beat his point into Lloyd's head even more. He's so happy to finally get the chance to let Lloyd know everything he has done wrong, so he's gonna milk every last second of it. Enemy Lloyd has one of the darkest lines I've ever heard in this show right here, when he says to Lloyd right before delivering that final blow.
So consider this a gift, an escape from all the mistakes you've made.
He's saying consider death a gift. Consider him doing this to himself a gift. That is so dark and freaking heartbreaking, and OMG, who wrote that line, because I just want to have some words with you. One random thought, but I love how Lloyd and enemy Lloyd's powers are different shades of green. That's a nice touch. Another great line in the scene is mistakes are how we grow. I just love this lesson. I feel like definitely in the 2026 society we live in, everyone acts like people aren't allowed to make mistakes, and I think that's such a toxic mindset culturally. I think it's really important for shows like Ninjago to get messages like this across to show that their main characters, the heroes, can make mistakes and are allowed to grow from them and work on it. I'm very glad that this episode and the show in general delivers this message, especially to its young viewers. Despite Lloyd's valiant speech to himself, enemy Lloyd manages to get one final kick in and sends Lloyd crashing through a glass abyss. The visuals here as Lloyd falls into the realm of source dragons are so stunning, like I am obsessed with it. So Lloyd ends up crashing down unconscious as the source dragons debate saving him, and I think this scene is really powerful because Lloyd did anger the source dragons, as enemy Lloyd pointed out, but they decide to save Lloyd anyhow, even though he wasn't able to pass the traditional trial of the Green Ninja. It shows that despite Lloyd's mistakes and shortcomings, these beings still see his worth and decide to give him a second chance. I also like this really dark symbolism that this episode gives us about Lloyd, showing that he couldn't defeat the darkest parts of himself, but he was given a second chance to bring life and connection to his friends in the merged realms, and wow, I really love that. The Source Dragons send Lloyd back to the Whispering Wood, sparing him in order to save the merged lands. Lloyd is weak and digs his hands into the ground, and his powers activate, showing how he is connected to nature and all living things. His eyes then open, shining green. I absolutely love this. It's like the nature all around him is strengthening him, and then he is able to send that strength to the others, connecting them all. The scene cuts to each of the ninja also getting a green eye power-up from Lloyd, and I absolutely adore this scene. It is the best thing ever to me. We get to see each ninja, all separated from each other, getting a power-up from Lloyd and feeling his presence. It's so awesome. It's such a hype moment. Oh my gosh. I also love how Lloyd is like,
I am the master of life.
Like, we've never fully understood his powers, and now this meta thing has been, confirmed in this season, that just like us, Lloyd has never fully understood his powers, but now he knows who he is. Two more quick things about this scene. I love how Kai just, face plants after the green eye power-up. He's just face down and gets up all groggy. It's such a funny visual to me. And I also was wondering, shouldn't Ryu have gotten a power-up too? Sora, Wildfire, and Frack all get it, but Ryu doesn't. And I think that's kind of strange because he is a member of the main ninja team. Is it because he's a dragon? Who knows? Anyway, the episode ends cutting back to Lloyd still struggling, but then he opens his eyes once more with that bright green glow, and then we cut to the credits, and man, that is such a hype episode ending. Every single time I watch this episode, I feel so hyped at the end. This scene is just so freaking amazing. Yes! That concludes my look at this episode, Dying to Live. I seriously think this is one of the best episodes ever. It's just so good. I'm so glad that I'm so happy with this episode and the season in general. It's just so much fun to rave about things. This was seriously my dream episode. There was just so much great character stuff, beautifully done scenes, awesome hype moments, and my two favorite characters got the main focus in this episode. So it is just an absolute joy for me that this episode exists. Let me know what you thought of this episode in the comments below, leave a like on this video, subscribe for more, and lastly, thank you so much for watching. Bye!